Well, hello, friends. Hello, hello. Greetings and salutations. Oh boy, it looks like we have a delay again. Do you guys see a delay between my voice and my movements with my body? Leslie, can you let me know if you see a delay? I'm seeing a major delay. Do you have a delay there? Let's see what Leslie says. Hi, friends. Yes, there is a delay. That is a bummer. I would like to log out and log back, but I don't want to lose everybody who's here. Ugh, delays. Leslie, can I log out and come back, but everybody else stays here, or does that shut the whole thing down? Can you let me know in the private chat? Hi, friends. Thank you for your patience. I want to work this delay out before I get into talking about this. Yes, you can log out. All right, friends, I'm going to leave the studio for 1 second. We use a particular broadcasting studio. I hope you'll hang tight, and I'll be right back. Leslie, do I hit the circle with... Hello, oh my God, here I am. Hello. I think it's working, kind of, maybe. Can you guys hear me okay? Could somebody type in the chat if you can hear me? And is there still a delay? Thank you guys for helping us solve our tech stuff. What's weird to me about tech stuff is there's no predictable reason, or like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's because of weather. Other times it just occurs for no freaking understandable reason. Works great now, looks good, you're good. Thank you guys. I so appreciate you. Okay, awesome. All right, then Leslie, if you can send me the topic one more time because it went bye-bye once I logged out, that'd be great. I like to have the original topic I stated because if I don't, there it is. If I don't have it, I'll start riffing on some other topic. All right, so welcome here, guys. Thanks for your patience. What if staying with yourself is the way to get everything you truly desire? All right, this is like a pretty deep, subtle thing to try to articulate. So I'm gonna move slowly and deeply here to try to get this stated the way I mean it and for it to be as helpful as I hope it can be. So, you know how you're living your life and you're getting some of the stuff you want, but not all the stuff you want, or you aren't getting any of the things you want, or you try things and they fail, and you try new things and they fail, and you try new things and they fail, and you don't get where you're going at all. There's so many things to say about this. When any time in life we get energetically ahead of ourselves, it becomes, and I'll talk about what I mean by ahead of ourselves in just a second, it becomes harder to actualize into reality what you're trying to create, manifest, or receive. So, but the paradox is that oftentimes we will feel like we need to run really quickly and get ahead of ourselves in order to get there faster. So then we're running really fast and we're ahead of ourselves, meaning our energy field is literally outside of our body, ahead of ourselves. It's like Like you ever, I don't know, if you have to like get to the grocery store before you get to your next appointment. So you're like rushing into the grocery store, you get your stuff, you come back to the car, you run to your appointment, and then you get to your appointment and you're like, right? Because that breathing, that heavy breathing is you catching up with yourself. You've been moving so quickly through time and space that you're not actually present to yourself. When we do that, we actually come out of alignment with what is correct for us as an individual. Remember that what is correct for you is not always the same as what you want, but sometimes it is. It's a very subtle, deep thing to stay very connected with oneself, because as you stay connected with yourself deeply in each moment, you start to realize, what are the actual things I can let go of? You know how we talk sometimes in consciousness circles about the difference between wants and needs, right? There's what you want, and then there's what you need, and they're not always the same things. So your needs are actually more important than your wants. They're the primary thing. Like you need shelter, and you need some income, and you need some friendship, and you need some food, and you need to sleep. You want a big beautiful house. You want tons of friends. You want very very tasty food. Okay. So that's like a bad example, sort of, because that sounds very like I'm equating needs with like the bare minimum survivalism. As But it's a good example at the same time, because as you evolve as a person and become a higher frequency version of yourself, you start to need higher frequency things along the ride of life. You start to need different things. Like now it matters more as you get older, for example, if your car be like comfortable for your body to be in. It matters more that you have like privacy in your space and a nice duvet cover that goes on your body. Because usually as people age, they care about themselves more. They care about their bodies more. They care about their state of being more. They care about how much money is in the bank more. We develop over time, and we care about ourselves more fully. Now, I'm talking about all these external physical things. What about your internal reality? Usually, oftentimes, unless you've got a ton of trauma and it takes a while to get to this, which a lot of us have, we start to care about our inner experience more as well. We start to want more peace, and we want it more regularly. We want more satisfaction in the work we do. We want to feel like things flow and are successful. We want to feel like we're not just beating our head up against the wall and tripping on the same mistakes over and over again. We want to feel like we're learning and growing and deepening our connection to our truest, deepest, most soul level self. How is any of that achieved? The way is to be very deeply connected to ourselves in every moment, so that in the present moment, you are getting the subtle guidance you need down inside yourself, like down in the belly, down in the heart, down in the body, below the neck. So you're getting the subtle cues you need about what is really required. What do you really desire? And here's the key, is this the moment to take action on it? Or is this the moment to pause? So the way I framed the topic, to come back to that, what if staying with yourself is the way to get everything you truly desire? I'm going to speak about this now by talking about myself in particular, because it's the best example I have. And I would like you to hear this and then extrapolate from it what is relevant to you. This is not me saying you're the same as me and you're going through exactly what I'm going through, but I want you to see what's relevant in what I say about me for your journey and in your own way, right? Okay. So I am a person who gets a million ideas all the time. I have a million zillion ideas for like businesses and places I could live and things I could buy and people I could date and dogs I could have and places I could travel and houses I could build. I have just constant ideas. And I have Open Head and Ajna, and I also have the channel, a fantasy channel, which comes up with all kinds of fantasies. So it's very important for me in particular to do this thing I'm talking about today, which is to stay with myself. When I'm present to my low belly, my feelings, my heart, my whatever you have defined in your body, because we don't share the same design. So staying with oneself is going to feel different for each individual, depending on who you are. But we do know some things generally about what staying with oneself tends to feel like. It tends to be in the body, below the neck, and it tends to have something to do with sensation. Now, if you're a mental projector and your whole reality is here, like you have definition in your head and ajna and maybe the throat, and you're sounding, you have the authority of sounding board where you have to process stuff outside yourself in order to hear yourself say what is true. The stuff about the body is going to be a little bit less relevant for you, but all of it remains true if you just understand the essence of it. When we stay with ourselves, whether it's mental or energetic, depending on your makeup, we glean over time the exact correct moment to take action and the exact correct moment to not. It's when any parts of ourselves that are compulsive, injured, or traumatized have us behaving in a way that has us ahead of ourselves, or you could say outside of ourselves, that we lose touch with the magical, built into your nervous system, perfect timing of everything. Okay. What do I mean by that? I mean, I'll give you an example from my reality today. I have like 6 projects I'm working on, and they're over different timelines, right? And they're all kind of in my psyche right now. It's like this, I'm going to create this and I'm going to create that, but I'm not sure where this one's going to be, but I know this one where it's going to be, and this one over here hasn't come to fruition yet, and I should probably call this guy about this thing, and there's a lot of moving parts. So I could easily get overwhelmed and tripped out and make some rash decisions in my life to like figure it all out and try to understand it and solve the problem today. But what I know from my lived experience is all I actually have to do is breathe into my belly, get centered in my body, and follow my strategy and authority, which a less human designy way of saying that is to say, just feel into the truth in this moment of what is true in this moment. And then in the next moment, I feel into what is true in that moment. And then over time, it becomes obvious which things that are true in the moment keep remaining true, which things won't go away, which things repetitively demand my attention. And when is the time to take action on them? In other words, let me try to be a little more specific so we can ground this a little bit more. Okay, so there's one project I'm creating that is like a kind of performance event. I'm not going to talk about the specifics because reasons, but I'm going to create an event and I'm going to be producing it. So the elements of this event are, I need to know where it's going to happen. I need to know when it can happen, so that then I can start inviting people to it. Then I can start building the marketing materials, inviting people to it, and hiring people to be a part of it, right? I got to get the people to do the performance event. It involves other people, okay? That's a lot of things I need to do. But until I know where it's going to happen or where it could possibly happen, I can't really move forward with any of the other stuff because the other stuff is dependent upon where it's happening. So the first steps I need to take are secure a location. So I have a situation where there is a potential location for this thing, but the people involved with the location of the thing that is a potential location, they're not getting back to me in the time frame that I would like. Like my engine, my body, my creativity is ready to like create this thing and start making some moves, right? But I can't do that because I don't have the space locked down. So then the question becomes, do I call these folks and sort of poke them again and say like, hey, so how are you doing? And are we going to move forward? And if so, when? Or do I just do a little background research and explore other locations that could house it without poking those first people? Because sometimes, I know you've probably experienced this in your life, but sometimes there are times where If you bug people about a thing too much, they kind of get turned off and go away. But if you don't bug them at all, they vanish. And if you're invested in the project happening, you've got to take some action steps. Like it's got to happen, right? So you have to do stuff. So in this case, I keep asking myself and consciousness, because I have psychic abilities and I can say to consciousness, is now the time to message those people? And psychically, I get a no. And then I ask, well, is now the time to be creating the thing? Yes. Is now the time to move forward with the thing? Yes. So how do I proceed if I don't have that first important answer to the question? Well, in my body, this is where it comes back to the topic, whether you have psychic abilities or not. This is kind of what I'm trying to say, is you don't have to have fancy psychic healing school abilities to create everything you desire and have everything you desire. All you have to have is a connection to yourself. Because if I come back into my body and I don't even go spidey senses with it, and I just feel into myself intuitively, I just have a sneaking suspicion those guys don't want me to bother them right now. I can just feel it. They're like, we're busy. We have stuff going on. We'll be in touch. So what I'm doing is I'm holding it like, okay, it could happen at that venue, but because I'm not hearing from them and I'm getting a feeling intuitively in my body, not psychically, magically, wizard style, just like in my body, I'm like, they don't want me up their asses right now. Okay. So what I can do, the action I can take today, because I'm wanting to take action, I've got all this energy on this project, is calling other venues, going to other venues and looking into which venues could say yes now to doing this, and seeing the space, feeling it out. Does it feel like the right space? All of this is simply coming, you guys, from me being with myself. We get into trouble when we get out of ourselves, meaning out of our bodies, out of connection with our own intuitive awareness, out of connection with our own strategy and authority, if you want to use human design parlance. So I know intuitively not to bug them and to start looking at other venues, because it may not work out with them. We're going to have to see. So to cover my ass and to feel like I'm getting the satisfaction of taking action on this thing I want to build, I really need to go see some other venues and call them and find out what they cost and call them and see if they want to do this with me, and so on and so forth. So when I ask myself, like, okay, what should I do today about this? In my body, if I stay with myself, I have a sense of like, I should call that place and just see what they say. See how they feel, see what their interest level is. So that's the actions I took. Now, I'll tell you something. 2 or 3 days ago, I started to have the feeling of I should call that place and that place, but I didn't do it 2 or 3 days ago. Why? Because inside myself, it didn't feel like a complete, correct yes, like now's the time. But right now it does. Right now it does. And talking to you guys about this makes me be like, you know what? I'm going to go do that right when I am done doing this with you guys. I'm going to make 2 calls. Because right now it feels like, yeah, it's time to call those guys, because all I'm doing is a discovery call. I'm not committing to a new venue. I'm not saying no to the original venue. I'm just doing a discovery call. Like, what is the possibility here? Okay, that's one example of how staying with myself helps me know what to do and when. When is it the correct time? When isn't it? Believe it or not, you actually have inside yourself the ability to feel and trust and know what to do and when. It's just that. Now, here's the whole thing. The mind is a tricky wizard bitch. And she's the not great kind of wizard. She's the Gandalf is the good wizard. Who's the shitty wizard? There's Gandalf the Grey. He's the good wizard. And then there's Voldemort. The mind is Voldemort, if you're a Harry Potter person. Okay. The mind is Darth Vader. The mind will say, oh, fuck, there's not enough time. How's it going to happen? I better call those people and override my intuition, even though I have a feeling they don't want to hear from me right now and they have a lot going on. But I'm going to push and I'm going to call them and I'm going to push anyway. I'm going to do it anyway because I'm afraid. See, now this is another reason why. How do you manifest and get and have everything you want? You have to stay in touch with yourself. Stay with yourself. Fear is an energy that separates you from yourself. Compulsion, when you feel compulsively like you have to do a thing and you have to do it now and there's no room and there's no time and it has to happen and it has to happen now and you're really intense about it, that is the last time to take action. Because compulsion and fear are the great separators between you and yourself. Your true self can feel in a kind of quiet, internal way. Yeah, you know what? I need to make that call. And it has a very like, I feel like I need to make that call kind of energy, as opposed to, I got to call them now because if I don't call them now, bad stuff's going to happen. Have you noticed that when you come at people with that kind of energy, they run away? Or they push back against you, or they don't want what you have, or they don't call you back ever? Desperation, fear, compulsion, they really push people away. But when you're really connected with your true, quiet inner self, you know what to say and when to say it, and you know when to not say something, and you know what not to say. I have gotten in trouble more times in my life, relationally with people and in business and in all kinds of situations, by overriding inside myself what I knew deep down was the right thing to do. So lately, I've been driving around. I have these deep thoughts and come up with what I'm going to talk about in here when I'm driving a lot of the time or walking the dog, just like moving my body. I get awarenesses and insights and stuff. And I was driving around today, just having like subtle inner awarenesses, just touching into my intuition, feeling into my sacral knowing, feeling into my defined G center, and just going like, what do I know about this? Like, what do I already know in my body? I know that I need to make some moves. I know that I can't call them. And then my mind starts in, yeah, but I want to call them. I want to call them now. So part of what I'm labeling for all of us here is the difference between what you know that is awareness and what you think that is thoughts. I'm also creating a distinction between what you know that is awareness versus what you feel that is an emotional reaction. The amount of things people do in emotional reactivity to stuff that then creates problems for them is really high. And the amount of things that people choose because the mind says, I have to choose it. I better choose it now. Now's the time. Or like, I can't choose it. I'm afraid. I'm too small. I'm not good enough. All of that is the mind. Meanwhile, the intuition is saying like, yes, now. So I realize I'm giving a lot of examples about, you're looking at a manifesting generator, which means I am a person who has like a ton of energy and my default mode is to do too much and push too hard. But some of you out there listening, your default mode is to hide and avoid and do not enough, right? So we all have our default modes that we're learning to balance between. Okay, so even if you're not a person who overdoes like me, but you're a person who underdoes or undertries or undertakes risks or whatever, avoids things out of fear, feels not worthy, etc. What I'm saying applies to both of us. Because if you were to tap into yourself and get the awareness, like, I really need to call that place, but then your fear says, but I'm afraid, and what'll they say? And they might say no, and am I worthy? And am I ready? And can I do it? All of that is either fear, which we talked about before, which is a separator between you and you, compulsion, which is a separator between you and you, or your mind, which is a separator between you and you. Sidi al-Jamal, our Sufi master, who's a perfected master, who Rahima, who's here tonight, went to school with me and we both studied under him. He used to say, there's no compulsion on the path, and the teachers would teach this too. There's no compulsion on the path, meaning anytime that there is a compulsivity, that is separation. Another thing Sidi taught us like over and over again was that there should anything you do that creates more separation is going to cause you problems later because it's not spiritually correct. So what is separation? Separation is when my heart is no longer connected to my belly. Like I am in separation from myself if I'm in reaction to you, if I'm in resistance to you, if I'm in reaction to me, if I'm in resistance to me. So basically whenever you're not at peace inside yourself, something is causing a separation inside yourself internally. So for me, the reason I like to do a lot of self-help work and be a conscious person is I don't like the feeling of internal separation anymore. It feels really bad. It's like my main priority in life is to keep myself connected to me. I like to feel like my breath is connected all the way down to my low belly, my heart is open, and my essence or my soul is dropped all the way down to the base floor of me. I don't like anything in my nervous system or my heart or my spirit or my body or my mind or anywhere that's going to separate me from me and make me feel at odds with myself. So I try to make no choices that put me at odds with myself. What is separation when it has to do with you and other people? Well, that's when we're functioning from our paphagals, which I like to talk about a lot. That's my silly little acronym for, I'll write these down here in the chat. So those of you in class with me have heard me talk about this. I've probably talked about this here before, but 12-step people understand the paphagals. Christian religious people understand the paphagals. It's pride, fear, anger, greed, lust, envy, sloth. So 9 times out of 10, if you're being driven by any of your paphagals, or as C.D. Jamal would have called it, your nafs, or the aspects of the nafs, aka the ego, you're going to create separation between your heart and someone else's heart. So CD used to say, just don't create separation. Don't do anything that creates separation. And if you do that, you'll be functioning in harmony with the world. So the twist on that teaching that I took into my heart that has been very important to me is, first and foremost, and above all else, there can be no separation within me. I cannot be in judgment of me. Therefore, if I've done something or if I'm carrying an energy that puts me in separation with myself or in judgment to myself, I need to work through that judgment so that I can be at peace with myself. If I've behaved towards you, Rahima or Tana or Tina or Laura or anyone who's here tonight, if I've behaved toward you in a way that makes me feel guilty or ashamed or regretful, I'm going to call you really fast and own that with you. I am so sorry I did that. I owe you an apology. That was wrong. Because then I don't have to sit with the pain of the separation between you and me. Key hint right here. When you have separation between you and others, you necessarily have separation between you and you. How? Why? Because everything is energy and all hearts are interconnected. And the more healing work you do and the more spiritually conscious and aware you become, the more that fact is undeniable. All hearts are attuned to the frequency of heart energy. All hearts feel the actions and the energies of other hearts. It's why you can lean in with some people and you lean away with others, because you feel the tightness on their heart. You feel how closed they are. And other people, you just feel this warm emanating glow and you just want to be closer to them. That's because the frequency of their heart matches either the frequency of your heart or the frequency of what you want your heart to be. So when you create separation by acting from pride, fear, anger, greed, lust, envy, or sloth with other people, there's a few others too, and we can talk about them. Because all hearts are interconnected, if you feel separated from someone, like it's why, like, you know, when you have a problem with a friend and it's unresolved and you just haven't had the talk and you need to have the talk, but you're resisting the talk and avoiding the talk because you know the talk might or probably will be freaking uncomfortable. So you don't want to have it and you're afraid you're going to confront them and they might get angry or they might have a feeling or whatever bad thing you think might happen. So you're avoiding the talk. But all the minutes in the day that you're avoiding the talk, you feel not quite right because things aren't resolved between you and that person. That lack of resolution between you and that person creates a lack of resolution inside yourself, which creates separation between you and you. The more separation you have between parts of yourself and other parts of yourself, the harder it is to hear and or feel into what is true for you. The harder it is for you to stay with yourself. And this is the whole point of energy healing or trauma therapy or therapy in general or somatic work or anything you're doing with yourself to heal. Human design study, um, fucking Tony Robbins workshops, all of it should be aimed at getting you to be more connected to you in a way that works practically in life on earth. If the thing you're doing, no matter who taught it to you or how expensive they are or how spiritual they are or how evolved they are, if it separates you from you, don't do it anymore. Even if I'm that thing, if I'm the thing that separates from you and makes you feel less connected to yourself, don't listen to me then. Listen to someone who makes you feel more connected to yourself, who gives you tools that bring you back into connection with yourself. Why? Because when you have connection with yourself, there's nothing you can't create, because you know what to do and you know when to do it, and you know what not to do and when not to do it. That is the whole point of becoming integrated and whole. That is the whole point of healing. Healing is also so you can be happy. That's a nice byproduct of healing. Wholeness and happiness, those are the purpose of the healing work. But so that's one example. I gave you the example of like, I want to do the project, but I got to call the people, but they don't want me to call. So I need to look at other options. Let's take a more personal example just to make this point in another area. Oh my God, I wish you could see the face Squeezel is making. Holy crap. She's very tired. She's looking at me like this. Like one of her eyes is rolled back in her head. You're very cute. I don't want to even talk to these people anymore because you're so cute. I just want to make out with my dog. That's all I want to do. Okay. Here's another example of a more personal nature. Let me think about how to talk about this. All right, here's a great example. Let's talk about the last time I had a crush on someone. Because having a crush on someone or like having feelings for somebody romantically where you don't know where they stand and you know it's brand new and you have all that excitement energy and you sort of you can get into like, what do I do? Do I tell them? Do I flirt? Do they like me? And the mind can do all the things the mind does. Or you could apply this to like you're going on dates with someone. If you stay, okay, let me talk about me. I don't want to be abstract. I want to be specific. So the last time I had a crush on someone, there was a situation where, oh boy, I don't know how to talk about this and not out a bunch of people. Let's do this a different way. Dating. Okay, I've got one. One of my long-term boyfriends, wonderful person who I got together with when we were first getting together, we were meeting as friends. Okay. And two friends had introduced us for a practical reason. I needed a place to stay while my like apartment was being constructed on. They were like building windows or something, and I needed a place to stay. So a mutual friend said, you should stay with this person. They have an extra room. It was a human man who had an extra room in his place. So I went and I met him and we started to hang out a bunch because I was living in his extra room and he was very generous and offered. He was like, sure, there's an extra room here. Laura says, I want to make out with my cat. This is so relevant. I'm so glad. Okay. So as I was staying in this man's extra room, I started to like get to know him and I started to realize, oh my God, I actually have like romantic feelings for this person. Now, I didn't know how he felt at all. He is not as expressive as I am. So I'm someone who it's like, whatever I'm feeling is like emanating off of me and people generally know how I feel unless I do a really good job trying to hide it, which is very exhausting for me. So I just tend not to do that. So I didn't know how he felt and I didn't want to come on too strong because I didn't want to push him away. But I also thought maybe he was interested because I could feel the vibe. There was like definitely a vibe, but he was giving me like no green light energy. But so I had like 3 weeks of time that were like torture because the whole time I was like, my heart was exploding with love for this person. I was just like so into him. And I was just so attracted to him. And I'm living in his house. This was years ago, by the way. And so he'd like walk by to go to the kitchen, and I'd be like, I get all fluttery and like nervous and not know what to do. And so then I'd be like, just be a normal person. So I'd go to the kitchen and be like, I'm just like making coffee. It's like no big deal, whatever. I'd be all casual with him. And by pretending I was casual and didn't care, I started to feel like this tension in my belly and my back got really tight because I was separating from my truth. I was separating from myself in order to perform. I'm cool. I don't have feelings for you. And when I was younger, this many, many years ago, I was better at doing that, pretending I'm cool, right? Because I gave a shit at the time. Now I'm just like, well, here's who I am and here's what I feel. So what do you think? That's where I'm at now. Anyway, my point is, what I learned by pretending for 3 weeks that I was like not interested, as I was trying to play it cool, was each time I tried to play it cool, I was creating separation between me and me. So finally, one day came where I said to myself, I'm sick of this. I can no longer pretend I'm not interested in this guy. And I'm willing to risk his rejection. Maybe he's going to reject me. It's more important to me to take the risk so that I can be connected to myself and move on. But I'll be connected to myself again and not pretending I'm something that I'm not. It's more important to me to do that than to pussyfoot around the situation and save the dynamic and like avoid getting hurt. So finally, one day I remember I was traveling, but my stuff was still at his house. And I sent him a text that was like flirtier than a friend text because we'd been texting and becoming friends, right? And I sent him a text that I can't exactly remember what I said, but it was something where I knew when I pushed send, he was going to know I was interested. And I knew that he was either going to be like, he was going to give me a response that would tell me if he was interested back. So I was so sick of being separated from myself by pretending I was cool that I just pushed send. And to my great gratitude and surprise, he wrote back, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I remember it so well because it was such a relief to me. It felt like weeks and weeks of pretending lifted off my shoulders and out of my central channel. So I could just be like, okay. He knows that I have feelings for him, and he has said in his own way, he has feelings for me. And here's what I felt energetically happen. Our hearts immediately connected because my heart, what I was doing by playing it cool was putting this, like, think of your heart when you have feelings for someone, even if it's just like feelings for your dog or feelings for your friends or feelings for your mom, whatever feelings you have for someone, the feelings are going out and people can feel them. So when you're trying to play it cool, you're trying to say like, you stop the feelings here. You're actually stopping them here and you're holding them in and holding them in and holding them in so they don't go out at the person. But the moment you unhold them in and let them out at the person, they feel it. And if they're open to receiving it and they stop playing it cool and open their thing, boom, 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 you have immediate heart connection. Sorry that the computer's shaking. That's because Squeezel is scratching her ear. Do you see how much shaking is going on? That's fully from a Squeezel dog scratching her ear. Are you done? Okay, thank you. So I'm not saying that containment isn't healthy because sometimes there are situations where containment is healthy. Okay, we'll talk about that in 1 second. I'm gonna put a pin in that. The point I'm making is that was a relational dynamic where I was tired of being not with myself. It was a separation inside myself to pretend I didn't have feelings for this man. I did have feelings for this man, and I was separating away from my feelings so that he wouldn't judge me or reject me. You know how many things people separate from inside themselves in an attempt, a desperate need and attempt to avoid rejection and judgment from other people? It's like the main reason people do everything they freaking do. Avoiding feeling bad and trying to feel good all the time. I want to feel good all the time and I want to avoid feeling bad. So I'm going to create separation inside myself. Well, guess what you have now? Now you have two ways that you're feeling bad. Certain kinds of suffering in life are necessary and inevitable, and certain kinds are not. So coming back to the topic today, what if staying with yourself is the way to get everything you truly desire? A lot of times we don't want to stay with ourselves because it's painful. So I'll give you a different example of a different crush situation that makes this point. I had a situation where I had a really serious big feelings for someone who was with someone else. And I knew that if I started to let those feelings out towards this person while they were with that other person, it wasn't going to go well because they were nowhere near ready to leave that person. But I knew myself and this person had a strong connection, and that if and when he became available, that would be the time to let the feelings be known. So I was in a torture chamber of, I was in a show with this person and we were in freaking, what do you call it? Dressing rooms together for months, long hours in the dressing room right next to each other. And it was so torturous because he had a someone and I just couldn't. So what did I do? I kept the feelings close to the vest, but I didn't disconnect from the feelings because I had learned from my earlier experience. So now I was like, okay, I have all these feelings. I have a big fat crush on this person. I'm going to feel them. I'm going to own it so that I'm not disconnected from my feelings, AKA disconnected from myself every minute that I'm sitting next to this clown. But I'm not also going to send them toward him yet. I'm going to keep them alive and bubbling up, but in my own little sphere. So if he chooses to notice that that's going on, that's the thing he's choosing, but I'm not like spreading them all over him. I'm just having them here. So that was a different kind of torture. That was a torture of like, oh my God, I just want to tell this person I'm into them because I felt like he was into me. I could feel it, but he was with this other bitch. So I'm not a home wrecker. So I wasn't going to like, that's a really judgy way to say that. But I'm not a person. I feel like if people are with someone else, you got to let that thing complete itself. Like, I just don't like to, I don't want to get in there and stop your thing from completing itself. I want the universe to show me that it's completing of its own accord. And I'll stand there and emanate my love, but I'm not going to like come in there and make a move that would influence the timing of the ending. That's just not my style. So I just stayed close by. I see that the delay is back. That's a bummer. Leslie, are you seeing the delay again? Can you tell me, you guys, if there's a delay? Oh, it went away. I think it went away. Is there still a delay? Anybody? Bueller? Is there a delay? Okay, I think we're okay, but I haven't heard from any of you, so I don't know. Oh, Leslie says no. Oh, delightful. Okay, okay, great. Thank you, Rahima. Okay, so in this case, the way to stay with myself and not create separation was to let myself have the feelings and not be so freaking cool that I was pushing my own feelings down inside myself. I owned it. I was like, I got a big fat crush on this clown, but he has this other lady. I'm not going to get in there and mess with that because karmically, that's not correct in my reality. But I just stood there patiently for many months. Just tick-tock, motherfucker. And lo and behold, by the end of that show, they were donezo. And then I swooped in and I went like, hello, how are you? Here's my feelings. And they were just emanating right at him because I was no longer having any need to contain them. And let's just say we had a delightful several months. Boy, did we. So all of that in that story is an example of how staying with myself got me exactly what I wanted. Now, let me tell you what that would have looked like if I had not stayed with myself. Not staying with myself could have taken a couple different shapes, but one of them might have been, he's sitting there in the rehearsal space or what is it called? Oh my God, I can't not think of that. I just said it before. Dressing room. And he's next to me and I got all the feelings. And intuitively, I know I cannot mess around with his relationship, but I don't want to hold these feelings. I don't want to hold them. I don't want to have to feel this. So I'm going to turn to him and be like, I have all these feelings for you and you're with this other person and I just had to tell you. That would be an example of me trying to get away from myself. Sometimes what we do is we try to throw all of our feelings at someone else so that we don't have to hold them on our own anymore. Containment, I'm taking the pin out of that thing I put a pin in. Sometimes emotional containment is a very intimate space to be in with yourself. When you have something you want to tell someone, but you know it's not the time to tell them, it's not quite correct, holding that information is a very intimate experience with yourself. And we oftentimes want to get rid of it because there's a tension inside of it. We don't like that tension. We like to resolve our tensions. But sometimes in life, the correct thing to do is hold the tension. So in both of my examples, with the theater space and with the person I was dating after the first person years ago in rehearsal in the dressing room, there was tension that was required for me to experience, which is a kind of suffering, which there is no escaping. But I didn't have to have the suffering of not getting what I wanted. In both cases, I'm getting what I want. In the first case, by holding the tension of not contacting the theater when I can tell they don't want me to, I'm getting what I want because I'm taking action to call other spaces to see if I could get what I want sooner with them. So I'm holding that tension of not calling them, even though I really, really want to call them. I really, really want to call that theater. I really, really do. I want to call them right now. But I'm not gonna. I'm going to call some other people. I'm going to hold that tension and take a different action. In the second case, with the second dude in the dressing room, I held the tension of I can't send this energy his way yet. He's with someone else. That's not my job. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be present. We're going to interact. We're going to like each other or not. And he's going to break up with her or not. And then one day I'm going to go, hello, when he's available. And then I got what I wanted. Let's just say I got my vitamin D, friends. I sure did. So sometimes you're playing the long game, pun intended, with yourself by being with yourself. But don't think that just because you're not getting what you want in this instant, that by being with yourself, you're not getting what you want long term. So often, if I just stay with myself and hold the tension of opposites, this is a Jungian idea. Holding the tension of opposites is something very uncomfortable for human beings, but it's a very necessary thing if we want to have successful lives that work. If I can just hold the tension of opposites inside myself, I want to call them and take action, but I can't. So I'm not gonna, but I can take action over here, but I'm going to keep this door open in case they call me later. That is a tension I'm holding in myself. Compulsivity and fear and the mind, judgment, these are energies that want to resolve that tension faster than it is organically ready to be resolved. If I were to compulsively call that theater right now, it would dissolve the tension in a way that made them uncomfortable and our relationship would probably be over. Same thing with my second dude example. If I had let him know too soon that I really wanted to get on top of him and ride him all the way to the stables, I don't think it would have happened. Because he would have had to defend against me to be like, I can't, I'm with this, what? I can't. Or he would have cheated on her to be with me. And now we have a new set of problems. And then I become that girl that he cheated with. So now our relationship is tainted with that energy, which that's not to say that dynamic never works out. Sometimes people cheat and they get together and they stay together forever and it works fine. I just wasn't willing to take that particular risk. Because in my life path, whenever I've taken that kind of risk, it doesn't go well for me. So that's just me learning from my own life wisdom. I am hoping this is making some sense and that this argument I'm making for staying with oneself as the way to get everything we want is landing for you guys. I would love to hear any thoughts you have about this or any questions you have. Like, what about this example? You could throw in the chat right now and please do. What would it look like to stay with myself in this other example? Like, please ask anything you guys want to ask. We have about 8 minutes here to do that. So, staying with ourselves is the way to get all the things that we're looking for. And sometimes that means when you stay with yourself, you get to have the things soon. And sometimes it means you get to have the things later. But you're 90% more likely to get the things you want if you stay with yourself, listen, and take the direction that the insides of you tell you to take. Yeah. Oh, good. M says, I don't know who that is. Who is M? It makes all the sense. Thank you for this. My pleasure. Who are you, M? Tana says, love it. Have so much more clarity on how to handle my stuff. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that. Anybody else? Insights, questions, things you've realized, things you want to understand, things that don't make sense. Please throw them in the chat as I sip my Diet Cola. Is this cute? Will this make my current crush like me if I do this? It's Emily. Oh, Emily, like from Switzerland, Emily? Yes, this is perfect. I need to stay with myself. I needed this today. I'm so glad, Laura. You're the best. I'm so glad it's helpful. Cool. Questions? Okay, if there's no questions, I'm just going to say this to wrap up for today. Remember, anytime you catch your stomach tightening, the back of your heart tightening, your shoulders going up, you have to be present in your body to catch these things, right? If you catch yourself clamping down and moving quickly, or if you catch yourself clamping down and avoiding, you are not fully with yourself. So you want to be open, drop all the clamping, feel all the feelings, and then you're with yourself. Now, what to do with the feelings is the next question after being with yourself. That's going to depend on the situation. So you'd have to share with me the specific example of the situation so I can help you understand what to do with the feelings. Okay, here Rahima says, Norway, Emily. Hey, girl. What's up, girl? I miss you. Good to see you here. Rahima says, how do you discern whether to hold the tension or act? I think I'm good at holding tension after learning how not to jump into it of myself, but not sure if I sometimes need to balance better, like not hold too much tension inside myself without engaging with the world. Okay, I need a specific example in this case, Rahima. Can you give me a specific example? Because I can't speak to whether or not you're holding too much tension if I don't have the exact example. That's what I was literally just saying that, which is perfect timing. So I'm glad you asked that question. Throw me the specifics if you can, and I'll be able to be useful. Frida's here. Hello, Frida. The more work I do, the easier it is to sit with myself during times when things are uncomfortable. I used to want to resolve the uncomfortable immediately. Exactly. And that need to resolve the uncomfortable immediately is what we call compulsion. Compulsion creates separation. So we try not to engage with compulsion. She says, not articulating properly. Yes, sure. Example coming. No, you know what? I think you're articulating this quite well, actually, Rahima. I know just what you mean. I just need a specific example of it so that I can respond in a way that is useful to you. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Frida, because that's exactly right. That's totally it. You know, I heard in the 12-step rooms many, many times it was stated when I was back in the day doing that whole thing that the definition of what it is to be an addict or an alcoholic or a compulsive type is the inability to sit with unresolved issues. Addicts are like, I can't handle the tension of the lack of resolution of this situation, so I'm just going to smoke crack. Or I'm just going to drink an alcoholic beverage, or I'm just going to eat pizza. I can't handle this tension. I can't sit here not knowing. I can't want a thing, but know that it's going to take 5 years to get it. So I'm going to just do a thing compulsively in the present moment to like resolve the tension. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually resolve the tension. It just numbs the tension by disconnecting you from yourself. So then you feel numb because you don't have to feel that tension, but you don't get the thing you want, nor are you connected to yourself. So now you have two problems. You don't have the thing you want, and you're disconnected from yourself. Wah, wah. Okay, Rahima says, wanting closure with X, feeling guided to hold the tension and keep going with my life, working to resolve it inside myself. But sometimes I wonder if I need to say something for full closure. It's been a long time resolving and letting go on my own. I see. Well, here's what I can say about resolving things with X's and trying to get closure. If you prepare to ask a question that is specific, and if your MO, your reason for doing so, is honestly and sincerely just to get answers, and you're not going back to the person to try to hook them in any way, passive aggressively, or to try to get them back, if you're really just going for answers and you can go cleanly in a way that's like detached from an outcome, and if you're willing to be rejected again, then you can certainly call that person and just say, hey, or text them and say, hey, I've been doing a lot of work since we broke up. Hey, I hope you're doing great. I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I have one question I'd love to ask you because it would help me have closure on our relationship. Would you be willing to do that? And then you hop on the phone, you go, hey, why did you leave? Or like, would you be willing to share with me why you left? Because I've written a lot of narratives in my head about why you left, but it would help me to know in reality, like why this didn't work for you. If you can walk into that conversation with no expectation of them doing anything different than what they're already doing, Like you're not there to change them or change their decision. You're there to understand their choice without any grip on the outcome. And if you're willing to have your feelings hurt, because they may say, well, because you smell bad. Yeah, I'm making something up to make a point. But they may say something that doesn't feel good to hear. They may say, like, I just wasn't feeling it. Or like, you feel like a sister to me. Or I didn't like what you were choosing in your life. And it doesn't match what I want for my life. Or you're not my type. They may say any number of things that may not feel great. But you're strong. You can handle that. But if you're like, oh, I feel tender around what they might say and I don't want to go through the pain of that, then I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're feeling up for it and you have no designs on changing their mind and you can walk in there clean and go, hey, would you be willing to share with me what happened so that I can have resolution? And if you're willing for them to say, no, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to have that conversation. If you're ready to handle that reaction, then fucking go for it. Because 9 times out of 10, people are very willing to say, like, yeah, actually, here's the reason, and I'm sorry, and take care. And then you'll at least have your answer. Does that make sense? Did that help? Do you have a follow-up to that, Rahima? Whew, you gotta take a breath after that one. You know why? Because I left myself just a little bit in order to answer that. And now I'm dropping back down into full connection. And there I am. Makes total sense. I think I've been holding the tension because I've known I'm not ready to enter that conversation without those other factors, wanting more. I like your wisdom. You don't smell. I fucking love you. You have such a wonderful heart, Rahima, and such a great sense of humor. And it's such a beautiful combination. You deserve somebody who sticks around and doesn't bail for whatever the fuck reason he bailed. He's a dummy if he bailed, because you're amazing. I'm so happy it helped you too, Laura. And thank you guys all for being here. I don't want to keep you longer than I committed to keeping you. So thank you, Leslie, for staying late today. She stayed late at work today because I started this late. Thank you guys for being here. I hope this has been helpful. Peace and love and light. And writing class starts again soon. Email me if you have any questions about joining writing class. I'll put my email address here in the chat. Friday daytime healing class is going to start up sometime in the next week or two. Email me if you have questions about that. Our OMA class is packed and very full. And Star Beings is going to be on hiatus for a couple weeks in the nighttime, but we may start a daytime version of it. So if you're curious about that, email me and we'll talk about it. You can always, anytime you like, go to katieromans.com and book your Akashic Records reading, energy healing, and or human design reading, and we'll dig deep into empowering you. I love you so much. Bye. Bye.